Pam Minick, 2000 National Cowgirl Hall of Fame honoree. Business savvy, talent, and style. Pam Minick's got it all, and she puts every bit of it to work for the sport of rodeo. She's a woman with a mission, to make rodeo as much of a household word as football. Pam believes, I will really accomplish something if I can draw 10 people to a rodeo in any given town. Well, she's done that and a whole lot more. Television personality, expert broadcast commentator, actress, marketer, breeder, owner and competitor with American quarter horses. And that's just for starters. Although Pam's parents never rode a horse, they bought matching palominos for Pam and her sister. Pam honed her equestrian skills and in high school won the 1971 Nevada High School Barrel Racing Championship. If that wasn't enough, she was named Nevada Cowboys Association's Rookie of the Year, a first for a woman. On a dare, the 18-year-old Pam entered the Eldorado Rodeo Queen contest in Las Vegas. 5 months later, she was named Miss Rodeo Nevada and went on to win the Miss Rodeo America of 1973 crown. Her experiences as Miss Rodeo America influenced her to pursue a career on the show business side of rodeo. Pam's first exposure to national television rodeo broadcasting was in 1976, when she worked with Donnie Gay and Larry Mahan on CBS. From 1979 through 1981, she promoted the Blair Pro Rodeo. Pam started National Finals Rodeo, NFR, broadcasting in 1982 and continued for 8 years interviewing NFR contestants and narrating barrel racing at the national finals. Her own expertise in rodeo events gives her a special insight into the contestants. She has earned 16 consecutive women's NFR rodeo berths in team roping and the 1982 Women's World Championship in breakaway roping. Pam became the first woman to hold a membership card as a rodeo announcer for the Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association and the first woman to announce at the prestigious Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. Pam's career in television and sports broadcasting now spans nearly a quarter century and includes more than 1,000 broadcasts. She's also cut commercials and modeled for Panhandle Slim and Laramie Boots. Pam also finds time to serve as marketing director for the world's largest Honky Tonk, the 100,000 square foot family entertainment center known as Billy Bob's Texas, located in the historic Fort Worth Stockyards. Pam Minick has been repeatedly recognized for her contributions to the contemporary Western lifestyle, including the Coca-Cola Woman of the Year in Pro Rodeo, the coveted Lane Frost Award, and the Tad Lucas Award from the National Cowboy Hall of Fame. A strong advocate for the Women's Professional Rodeo Association, WPRA, Pam has served in several WPRA positions since 1978. Leslie Baker, former publicist for the American Quarter Horse Association, says of Pam, because she proudly carried her marketing aptitude from office to arena, she laid the groundwork for the increased recognition enjoyed today by women's professional rodeo. Pam's advice to young people today is to express yourself and never give up. Advice that she has followed to the fullest.
Very good. Okay, so Miranda Lambert said the house that built me. And my presentation is the horses that built me, because throughout my life, it's really been horses that have shaped my life. And most of you that know me, and Amy, you got to make sure, where did Amy go? Oh, you got to make sure that you tell Jamie that she made the video. So, so through it, and you've seen some of the horses, but my story started in Las Vegas. Well, these are some of my awards. You guys already know that stuff. My story started in Las Vegas when my sister and I both decided that we wanted a horse. My parents had never ridden a horse, and these are some of the stories that you've already heard of. But my mother said, my mother got my sister and I a horse, but one of the things that she told us, and we've lived our life by, is can't. I won't allow this word in my house. If you want to do something, find a way, Mom. And that was true for everything, from horses to everything that I've done since then. You'll find out later as I tell you through my life what it's all about. But this is my mom, grew up in Las Vegas, and my first horse was Rebel. So my mother and father never rode a horse, but they indulged us. They found horses that were actually pulling a stagecoach up and down the strip in Las Vegas, and now everything is themed in Vegas. You know, you've got Bellagio and Treasure Island and Paris and all these themed hotels. Well, they were going to do a hotel with a Western theme, so they had this matched pair of Palominos going up and down the strip in Las Vegas, pulling a covered wagon. That's the simplicity of marketing back in the 60s, you know. And when the venue or when the hotel never got off the ground, my mother bought those two horses for $300 a piece. It was Rebel and Rio. And so I took Rebel. We didn't even have a saddle. In fact, the first night that Rebel and Rio were delivered, we didn't even really have a corral. My dad put some posts in the ground digging into that caliche in Las Vegas, which is that hard ground. We tied them up the first night, and we didn't know the difference. I mean, I look back on that, I'm just horrified. And the next day, he's out there sweating in 114 degrees, and he builds two corrals. Now my horses have got fans and misters and air conditioning, and they're standing out there without even a cover. I mean, I look back on it, but I joined 4-H, and you've already seen that picture of my sister and I, but that's Rebel and Rio. You are the author of your own life story, and that's what I became. Through horses, they led me through each path of my life. I never really had a goal or even thought about what do I want to do when I grow up. I'm still asking myself, what do I want to do when I grow up? And so every step of my life, I've just had a door opened and walked through it, and that's really the path that I've taken. So I'm continuing to author my own life story. This is my first queen contest. I didn't win, but I thought I was so cute. My hat actually had lace on it. That's an older version of a Tesla, I think, there. Walt Disney said, the way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing. If you can dream it, you can do it. Always remember, this whole thing was started by a mouse. Being a Disney fan, I know that you can relate to that, Pat. Carry yourself like a champion now, so when you get there, it's not a surprise. And I guess another way to say that is if you can't dazzle them with brilliance, just baffle them with bullshit. So, you were born to win, but to be a winner, you must plan to win, prepare to win, and expect to win. And I won my local title, and then as the video said, I went on to win Miss Rodeo Nevada and Miss Rodeo America, all within a 6-month period of time. My first pageant was on a dare, my Eldorado pageant, and that was in May, and by December I was crowned Miss Rodeo America. That was the coronation. Susan Merrill was the outgoing Miss Rodeo America of 1971, or 72, I guess, because I was Miss Rodeo America 73, which is 50 years ago. My dentist told me I needed a crown. I said, I know, right? This is the morning after the coronation. Amy Wilson is here with us today. She's a former Miss Rodeo America as well. And many people say that we actually resemble each other. And the younger me hopes that I was as cute as Amy is now. So, but she'll remember this. The morning after, of course, I don't know if it's the same schedule now, but you're up all night after coronation. They come out the next morning. They're like, we're going to take your official pictures now. And you're just like, oh, my God. But I was only 19, so you didn't have to worry about me being drunk that night. So, some of the other pictures. Pigtails were really big back then. Lots of pigtails. Be the woman who fixes another woman's crown without telling the world that it was crooked. And that's something that I've tried to live my life by. And those of you that know me and are around me know that I try my best to uplift other women. I find that in many competitive environments, that's not always the case, and I hope that I'm always that girl. This is a cover of Hoofs and Horns magazine, which was the official news of the Rodeo Cowboys Association back in those days. Obviously, more pigtails there. a picture of me sewing. Most of the suits that I wore in the Miss Rodeo America pageant, and at the time, yes, you wore a suit and you wore gloves. But most of the suits I wore, I made myself, so they found it interesting that I was sitting down at a sewing machine. Early in my career, this is the NFR in 1983, so that would be 40 years ago. That's Roy Cooper, obviously, and I'm interviewing him with his son, Clint. So Clint is now like 50, I guess. So obviously a great memory there. I'm not going to tell you it's going to be easy, but I'm telling you it's going to be worth it. Another, which you saw the video of me doing the show with George Strait, we did a little show called Texas Houston Style, and that was his first year to appear at the Houston Livestock Show. Many of you know the story of his rise to fame there at Houston. Eddie Rabbitt was scheduled to be the entertainer at the rodeo, and Eddie Rabbitt got sick, and they put in the opening act, George Strait, and the people liked him. He's done pretty well for himself, you may have heard. We both look just the same, don't you think? And that's the TNN years, which that job was such a blessing because most of it was right here at Mesquite in my own backyard. Kim is here. Kim is from New York, but she made it to Texas as fast as she could, and she said it was because she found rodeo on her TV on Mesquite Rodeo, and she drew a picture and said, that's where I want to go. And we just met tonight, but she told me that story. But at the time, the funny thing about Mesquite Rodeo and about TNN, the Nashville network, at the time there weren't that many networks to choose from. It was not uncommon on any given Sunday night when TNN was on for 1.2 million people to watch that broadcast. Now, if a rodeo or any sporting event gets more than 250,000, it's considered a success. But now there's 1,000 different cable channels to choose from. So we were so blessed in that day to have such a prime TV spot every single week for the sport of rodeo. A diamond is a chunk of coal that did well under pressure. And I have to remind myself of that sometimes when you're under pressure and you're just saying, you know, how am I going to get through the day and what's going to happen? And just remember that out of this pressure can become a diamond. Reba McEntire obviously has a great background in the sport of rodeo and is a big proponent and is an honoree here at the National Cowgirl Museum. This happened to be in your hometown of Guthrie, or in that area, at the Lazy E, it was the Ben Johnson Celebrity Rodeo, and when Ben passed away, it became the Reba McEntire Celebrity Rodeo, but I won the barrel race, so she got to present me the buckle, and then she got to interview me instead of the opposite way, so. This is obviously Donnie Gay, and those were the days at TNN. You can only become truly accomplished at something you love. Don't make money your goal. Instead, pursue the things that you love doing and then do them so well that people can't take their eyes off you. And you'll see that same message throughout this. Hi, Doc. How are you? You'll see that same message throughout this presentation, and it's about doing what you love. This was one of my first, well, no, actually not. This is 1978. Larry Mahan, Bob Tallman, and myself, and that was the first of the Blair Pro Rodeo series, and that was a syndicated series that was on mostly NBC affiliates. And that was when Bob was thinner with a lot more hair. And I had a lot more hair as well. Then we started in 1992, the Professional Bull Riders Tour actually began right here in Fort Worth at Cowtown Coliseum. It wasn't even branded as the PBR until 2 years later. They officially formed in '94. But we started right here with the Tough Heatman Championship Challenge, which became the PBR or the Bud Light Cup. And you'll see some of your, Alan will recognize a lot of, some of these might be your photos, Alan, as well. Alan Glanville was one of the photographers of the PBR back in the day. That's Jim Sharp. Find something you love to do so much you would do it for free, and then do it so well that people want to pay you for it. A message there. Ty Murray, Tough Heatman, Adriana Moraes. It is impossible to live without failing at something unless you live so cautiously that you might not as well have lived at all, in which case you fail by default. And have you ever had that where you think, I want to try that, but I'm scared to? But what's the worst that could happen? You end up right back where you were, so try it. This is my horse JC. This is a horse that I ran barrels on back in 1978. And I got through about Cheyenne and was still bubbling around the top 20. And after Cheyenne, it went downhill. So one of the goals that I never accomplished was making the National Finals Rodeo. This is my horse Byron. This was my first real heart horse. I won the world championship in breakaway roping on Byron. I still had him when I moved here. He's the one that I was actually roping on, where you saw me roping with Mahan in the rodeo, heeling on him. So you could head on him, heel on him, breakaway rope on him, barrel race on him. You could do anything. And he's buried at our house, and he died at the age of 34. So luckily we got to take him with us to our new house before he passed away. This is my friend Jamie, and that's me roping with Jamie. And that's Amy's neighbor. I'll leave that up for a while so you can get a good picture of that. This is my horse Smokin' Sassy Sue. She was the AQHA Heel Horse of the Year. She was one, Jamie actually breakawayed on her too. So, but she was a great heel horse and gave me so much confidence when I roped. This is Sassy too. I've actually had 3 horses with Sassy in their name or bloodline. So I have Sassy, the original Sassy, Sassy 2, and Sassy 3. The funny story about this horse, Sassy, when Justin had their 75th or their 100th anniversary rodeo, you know, I think you roped in it, Kelly, or maybe you flagged it. I remember you were there. At Will Rogers, they had this Justin celebration rodeo, and they invited 10 teams to come. So Billy and I were one of the teams, and we were first out. Well, Ty Murray had said he'd asked me about riding my horse to heel on, and then he just said, never mind, I'm going to ride somebody. He said, I'm going to ride Lori Shoulder's horse or something. I was fine. So Billy and I are first team out, and we're clean and like we're leading it. And so all of a sudden, Ty comes running down to the end. He goes, wait, I want to ride your horse after all. I was like, oh, just because I caught you think, yeah. An arrow can only be shot by pulling it backward. When life is dragging you back with difficulties, it means it's going to launch you into something great. So just focus and keep aiming. This is Lucky. Lucky's a horse that we just put down in May, and she was 33. We've got a big history of old horses at our house. We must take care of them. But you'll see a lot of Lucky. I roped on her for about probably 8 or 10 years. And she was just a super horse. Everyone falls down. Getting back up is how you learn to walk. And that's my message for when you think that the chips are down, but it's meant to make you appreciate the highs. More of Lucky. I know I'm supposed to let Jesus take the wheel, but sometimes I think we off-roading. So another part of my life has been my time at Billy Bob's Texas, and I was the marketing director there for more than 30 years. There are many great stories there and many entertainers that we got to see and cross paths with. One of my favorite, though, was Ringo Starr for this reason. Is you see in the background his trunk. It looks like one of those things that you would see like on the Titanic or something, where the person really has a trunk full of clothes with a star on it. That's no joke. It's right there. You can see it reflecting in the mirror. So when I walked in backstage with that, what I wear almost every day, sparkly clothes, because I want to be Cher when I grow up. So I walked in backstage, and he said, oh, that shirt, his English accent, that shirt is phenomenal. And he takes me over to that trunk, and he opens it up, and there were no less than 30 vintage Western shirts in there. So he pulled one out and put it on. And I just thought that was just so ironic that he was there. And I was like, so you brought these because you were coming to Fort Worth? It was a great story. This is my husband presenting Garth Brooks with a check for his charity. The first time that Garth played Billy Bob's was August of 1989, and I still have the typed sheet because at that time we didn't have a computer, so I had to type the entertainment schedule every Monday, put a new piece of paper in there and start over. And I have that piece of paper at home, and it's Garth Brooks. Reserve seats were $7.50, and general admission was $5. There were less than 600 people that came to the show, and he said, I'll sign autographs for anybody that wants one. And that's been a great story. Your work is going to fill a large part of your life, and the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work, and the only way to do great work is to love what you do. So obviously that's a recurring theme, but it's told by so many different people. I mean, everybody thinks they made that up, including me, but obviously Steve Jobs thought that was important too. This is my husband presenting Tim McGraw with his first gold record. That we had him booked a couple of different times, but this particular time, Indian Outlaw had just gone #1, and he didn't know that the gold record had already been pressed, and so the label gave it to us to present to him. So it was a surprise to all of it, to him, and not really to me, but I looked the most surprised in that picture. Worrying is like sitting in a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it doesn't get you anywhere. This is George Strait at his place down in Boerne. Obviously, he's an avid roper as well, and that's his indoor arena. He had just come back from fishing, and when Billy saw him, he said, I thought you were Charlie Pride. Where's Doc? Doc will love that one. Oh, yeah. This is at the Charles Goodnight Gala. Billy and I will receive the Charles Goodnight Award several years ago, and Reba was the entertainer at that event. I can take on the world, but first I need some lipstick. How many of us feel that way? This was a special interview with Merle Haggard. We were doing a series of interviews with people about Billy Bob's 30th anniversary, and so one of the questions that I asked Merle is, what do you think is unique about Billy Bob's? And his answer was, it's still open. He said most beer joints close in 7 years. So that was getting him mic'd up for his interview. This was a special one as well. Aaron Watson is a Texas music artist, if you're not real familiar with him, but Aaron had read the book, Same Kind of Different as Me, and I don't know if any of you love that book. It's written by Ron Hall, and it's really about the Presbyterian Night Shelter and our homeless situation and giving in Fort Worth. And Aaron had read that book, and he called me about 3 weeks before his concert, and he said, I've just read this book, and it's changed my life. And he goes, I want my entire proceeds of my concert tonight to go to the homeless in Fort Worth. So I called, Betsy was the mayor at that, no, Mike Moncrief was the mayor at that time, and I called Mike and I said, I want you to do a proclamation making it Aaron Watson Day, and I want to give it to him that night because he's going to give it, what was it that they called, it was called, not Operation Homeless, but anyway, so Fort Worth Initiative. And so I called Ron Hall, the author, and I said, Ron, this gentleman loved your book, and I'd love for you to come and make the presentation. So it was a surprise to Aaron, both the proclamation and the fact that the author that had changed his life was there. So that was kind of a special night. When you can do anything, when you can make anything, make a difference. And obviously we try to do that, all of us try to do that every day, but these are just some opportunities. This was an interesting time in my life. 2011, the Super Bowl came to the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and they had a group of people that were what would you call it, the host committee, the steering committee for the Super Bowl, and I was one of those. What it also meant was that you had to get $1 million sponsor for the Super Bowl as well. They didn't tell you that when they asked you to be on the host committee, but we made it work, and it was, other than the ice storm, the Super Bowl was a great time for Fort Worth. People will forget what you said, they'll forget what you did, but people will never forget how you make them feel. So in 2006, I was named Great Woman of Texas. I got the boots to prove it. Interesting story here, the billboard company that we worked with at Billy Bob's, they put up these billboards, a few of them around town. Well, this particular one was on I-30, and I happened to get a speeding ticket right below that billboard one time. When I got pulled over by the cop, I was like, but that's me. It made no difference. A big part of my life, as you all know, and a big part of my heart is the National Cowgirl Museum and Hall of Fame, and I was able to help with some of the, I guess, fact-finding as they brought the Cowgirl Hall of Fame here from Hereford, Texas. I'd like to introduce Pat Riley and her husband Kelly. Pat is our executive director. Kelly and I have been friends for longer than we care to remember. Pat and I have too. And so bringing the Cowgirl Museum, it belongs here in Fort Worth, and I'm so proud of it, and I do everything I can. This PowerPoint I first made when somebody asked me to speak about cowgirls, and I first made this PowerPoint, and since then I've kind of got a little cottage industry going where I'm doing these speeches and they're sending checks to the Cowgirl Hall of Fame, and that's a good thing as far as I'm concerned. But this is my friend Debbie Garrison, who had a plaque made for me. This was at the induction, and I want you to know that I'm wearing the same jacket that I had made for induction, and it says Cowgirl on it. So this jacket is now 23 years old because my induction was 2000, as you know. And then this is last year's induction, a year ago, when Miranda Lambert received the Patsy Montana Award. Oh, she was inducted, yeah. And that's Larry D. Guy, you might know that, and that's right here in our rotunda. Lift as you climb in your career. There's more than enough room at the top. And I think Amy's somebody that can attest to the fact that I truly believe that, because when Amy and I first met when she was Miss Rodeo America, and then our paths continue to cross and we continue to be friends, and on every given time that I can, I try to open a door to make it easier for her to walk through. This is Fort Worth, Texas Magazine. I had short hair then, 40 women who run our city. Not sure that that's really true, but it was at the time, and that was many years ago. So last year, they called me from the Drew Barrymore show, and they said, we're doing hometown spirit in towns across the United States, and would you be the one that gives us a tour of the Fort Worth area? So I started at Cowboy Stadium, and I thought I fit right in with those girls. And we went to they came here and did a story here at the Cowgirl Museum. We went to the stockyards and covered the herd, but that was a fun time where we got to show off Fort Worth to the world. Stop trying to make everyone happy. You're not tequila. You're not tequila. Every year I get a chance on New Year's Day to ring in the new year with RFD TV and the Cowgirl Channel at the Tournament of Roses Parade. That's Christina Loren, and if you don't watch the coverage of the Cowboy Channel, Cowgirl Channel, and RFD TV, you're missing out, because our network doesn't go to break during the bands. They don't go to break during the horse groups. We stay on the whole parade. It's basically without commercial interruptions. Carson Kressley has been at the Equest Fest many times. You might know him from Queer Eye for a Straight Guy or other things, but he's an accomplished equestrian. He rides saddlebreds, and he's a lot of fun to be around. This is this past year at the Rose Parade. And if it's not on your bucket list, it should be, because you cannot mimic the smell and the beauty of all those flowers. You know what it costs to send a dozen roses. I mean, it's $100 for a dozen roses. You open those float barns, there's millions of every color, and not just roses, but every species of flower. And so if you haven't been here, it's not about the parade, it's about the building of the float. No matter how you feel, get up, dress up, show up, and never give up. So about 12 years ago, I started on this journey of gentle giants. A gentleman named Joe Ricketts, who happened to start TD Ameritrade and owns the Chicago Cubs, loves draft horses, and he's from Omaha. So at a Christmas party, he saw Patrick Gotch, and he said, you know what you need on your network? You need a show about draft horses. So Patrick called me, and he goes, can you produce a show about draft horses? And I said, yes, because that's what I always say when people ask me something. And then I try to figure it out because I just assumed, growing up in the quarter horse world, that all horses are pretty much the same. And I thought, what could be different? Draft horses are just a little bit bigger. Oh, no, 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 no. It's totally different. But it has been a journey. I've gotten to drive the world champion Percherons. I've gotten a chance to ride the champion Clydesdales. It's hard to be a woman. You must think like a man, act like a lady, look like a young girl, and work like a horse. So this last 12 years has been quite the journey with Gentle Giants, and Katie Kaufman, my co-host, and I have met the most wonderful people and done the most interesting stories. So if you haven't seen them, they replay quite often on the Cowboy Channel and Cowgirl Channel. There's places that you don't even think about draft horses being. For example, the trolleys in Disneyland. Those are pulled by draft horses. So I went to California and did a story about where the draft horses live at a little ranch at the back of Disneyland, right behind the Star Wars resort, you know. So just little things like that that are so fun. That's driving a team. That was out at RFD TV, the ranch out in New Mexico. You can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending. And that's pretty much what I did during COVID. You know, I'd always been a barrel racer and a roper, and during COVID there wasn't any rodeos to go to, and I didn't have anybody to head for me. So I decided to take my heel horse and do some virtual shows because there was nothing to go to, but they had these virtual shows where you could do this video and send it in and get judged by an AQHA judge, and they actually placed you and you could actually win money. So without really knowing what I was doing, just following the pattern, I started doing those shows and trying my, you know, it's when you're used to, you can see I've got, well, no, I think that wasn't my barrel racing saddle, but when you're used to standing up all the time, roping and leaning forward barrel racing, it's really hard to make your butt sit down. As you can see, mine won't sit down very good. But I did quite well on these virtual shows, and this lady, who is now my coach, called me one day and she said, you know, if you knew what you were doing, you could do really well. You should get a coach. And I'm one. So I got a coach, and I started trying to do a little bit better at my ranch riding. And that year at the Quarter Horse World Show, the AQHA World Show, because of COVID, there was no qualification. So anybody could enter. So I entered, well, and this is where we go with this. Why should you continue going after your dreams? Because seeing the look on the faces of the people that said you couldn't will be priceless. Yes. So I go to the Quarter Horse World Show, and I won Reserve World Champion at my very first World Show. So you can start where you are and change the ending. And since then, as Elise can attest, I've become hooked on showing horses. This was my level 1 reserve championship. These are more pictures of me and Smarty. He's my little Fabio. He's just so handsome. So then last year I go back. So then the next year I didn't compete. I qualified on my other horse, Champ, who you'll meet in a minute. But we get to the World Show and Champ colics and had to have colic surgery. So we never even got to show that year. And Smarty was sitting out. He had torn a deep flexor tendon. But I went back last year and I won Champion of Champions, which is the highest you could go in level 1. So that's the good news. The bad news is that means you can't enter level 1 anymore and you have to compete with the big boys. So now it's starting at the bottom all over again. So this is Champ. My husband bought him for me as a head horse. The reason he's called Champ because he was the reserve champion at the stock horse ranch horse sale, and he competed successfully at the rope horse futurity, which is going on right now. So he was 7th his year out of 152, so that was good. But anyway, so I took Champ, and we're not heading on him. We're trying to make him a ranch riding horse as well. This is at the VRH in Guthrie a few years ago. And he won 3rd there, so I was really proud of him, a big class in his first show. And that's him getting a little prize in 2021. And so he would much rather, I think, be a head horse. You know, they're looking for those horses with the head down, and he's always looking for something. So he's very inquisitive. No matter how much or how little formal education you have, no matter what the color of your skin, no matter how much money you have or don't have, being successful comes down to hard work, cultivating relationships, and having a positive mental attitude. You are what you think you are. This is my husband and I. These are two of our dogs who are no longer with us. That's Fanny and Stony. This is our Trail of Fame star. And this is us riding on our ranch in Argyle, Texas. And I think that might be the end. Oh, no, that's not the end. This is a picture of me and Billy and Smarty. He doesn't know it, but that's his favorite child. And yeah, and that's the end. So. A gentleman named Vaughn Wilson did that. I think Kelly's got a Vaughn Wilson painting as well. He came to Texas one day, called me up. This is a crazy story as well. Called me up and he goes, "My name's Vaughn Wilson. I'm doing a story about people and their horses, and how their horses impact their life. What is it called? Tell me a story about your horse," or something like that. Now, mind you, I was home alone, and I said to this guy, "Well, come on over." I look back on that, and as I was sitting at my dining room table telling him about my horse, I was like, I literally don't know this guy that I just invited into my home, and I'm home alone. But he's turned out to be a wonderful friend and a great talent. But I look back on that, and I was like, man, you make some bad choices sometimes, Pam.